And when I call on you, if you would just briefly introduce yourself and maybe add your and also add your organization. So I see Dick Kornbluth. Oh, I cannot hear you, Dick.
You're muted.
And I can't see your mute button because my arrow pointing. Somebody help me out. I didn't hear Dick.
You're still muted, Dick.
Yeah, Dick, you may have to go out and come back in. Let's move on. Dave Mankiewicz.
Dave Mankiewicz, Senior Advisor at Center State CEO.
Peter.
Peter McCarthy from CNY Solidarity. If you don't get our newsletter, go to cnysolidarity.org and sign up for a good weekly newsletter of Central New York progressive events, announcements, and action alerts.
Thank you. I can attest to that. It's very complete. Bob.
It's like Dick is back with us.
Dick, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Dick Kornbluth. I am a member of the coordinating committee of the CNY Solidarity Coalition.
Thank you. Bob Haley, AIA and Focus Greater Syracuse Board and educator. And thank you.
Bill Chadwick.
Yeah, Bill Chadwick here, representing the All Saints Parish Care for Our Common Home Task Force and retired from Carrier, many decades thereof.
Thank you. Jesse. Jesse, your mic was a little bit garbled for some reason. We heard some noise, but it was pixelated, if that's the right term.
Else is not on mute. Jesse McMahon, I'm the Director of Office of Environment for Onondaga County.
Thank you very much. That was much better. Peter?
I'm at the Department of Civil Environmental Engineering up at Syracuse University.
Thank you for being here. And Carol Johnson?
Hi, I'm Carol Johnson. I'm here from the Onondaga County Public Library.
And Abdul
Alameen, I'm a sustainability consultant. I represent the south side of Syracuse and upstate New York.
Thank you. Dick Schutzo.
Hi, Dick Schutzo. I am with Omni Renewables and also with the Diocesan Creation Care Task Force. That's a Roman Catholic diocese.
Thank you. Dave Babcock.
Dave Babcock from Town of Clay. I lead the Roman Catholic Diocese of Syracuse Care for Our Common Home Task Force.
Thank you. Howie, good to see you.
Hey, thanks, John. Retired Lockheed Martin engineering manager. I spend my retirement doing what feels like full-time STEM outreach and advocacy, I guess representing the Technology Alliance of Central New York, TACNY, and/or the Museum of Science and Technology.
Peter Arsenault.
Hi, Peter Arsenault. I'm an architect, founding president of Greening USA and current board member.
Thank you. Emma?
Hi, I'm Emma Erdinger. I'm with the Syracuse Center of Excellence.
Thanks for being here. And Peter Plumley.
I had already introduced myself, but I'm the Syracuse University Department of Civil Environmental Engineering.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. People are moving around. And in fact, I don't know what I'm going to do when I go to the second page of my screen here. I see Chris Carrick is here.
I work with Lindsay at the Central New York Regional Planning Board for another week. My last day will be next Friday.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. You'll have to fill us in. I will say that Chris is a former board member of Greening USA. as well. Tammy.
Hi, Tammy Rosanio, Associate Director of Partner Programs for the Syracuse Center of Excellence. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Joey? You might be muted.
Joey says that they're in a conference room and their audio is not connected. So it's Joey and Alex from the Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council. Happy to be here. Thank you to my fan club.
Thank you. Melanie.
Hi, just somebody who has worked within Green USA as well as Canopy Advocates for Syracuse Green Space, and I'm just trying to get my house off of fossil fuels right now.
Thanks. And Melanie is a former board member as well. And Kevin?
Kevin, I own Nichols Energy Solutions. We're a residential solar installer in the Syracuse area and always looking to learn more about these topics.
Oh, great. Thanks for being here, Kevin. Ben. All right. I think that might be everybody. If I miss somebody, my apologies. But let's talk about today's program, which is all about energy. And we're featuring 3 speakers that are working to nurture Central New York's clean energy landscape. Barry Carr, Lindsay Speer, and Avni Previn. Avni is at the Alliance for a Green Economy. She is deputy director, and she will speak about policy issues, activism, and strategies that the Alliance that Agree is involved with. Prior to coming to the Alliance for a Green Economy, she researched barriers to accessibility for low-income households in community solar programs at the Solar Initiative in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where she was a program manager. I'm not sure if she's going to have a chance to talk about that today, but I would love to hear someday, Avni, from you about your experience in that research in Cambridge. Avni holds a Master's of Science in Environmental Sociology from the University of Oregon and a Bachelor's of Science from Case Western Reserve University. Lindsay Speer is a senior energy planner at the Regional Clean Energy Hub located at the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board. She is responsible for directing EnergySmart CNY and the NYSERDA sponsored and supported Clean Energy Hub, which is one of 12 in the state. She oversees operations, serves as a spokesperson, and works with local and statewide partners to develop the programs and collaborations to develop EnergySmart Central New York as a community resource. Lindsay is a graduate of Cornell University, Natural Resources, and Vermont Law School, a master's in environmental law and policy, and was previously a recipient of Greening USA's Sustaining Our Communities Award in 2019. Barry Carr is the Coalition Director for Clean Communities of Central New York, a U.S. Department of Energy Clean Cities Coalition. Barry has spent his career in the advanced transportation world, working with major utilities and fleets to develop alternative fuel infrastructure, including EV level 2 charging, natural gas, renewable natural gas, hydrogen, and DC fast charging systems. Barry has traversed the whole spectrum of alternative fuels and energy and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience about that whole transportation world. And I'm looking forward to hearing from him today. And Barry is part of a multi-state group that has been awarded a Department of Energy to develop the EV natural gas and hydrogen infrastructure along the I-80 corridor from Iowa to New York. And perhaps he'll tell us a little bit about that. Barry is located at the Syracuse University Center of Excellence. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay to lead us off today.
Thanks, John. You share my screen. Okay, so thanks. It's a real pleasure to be here. Again, I'm Lindsay Speer. I work at the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board, and I run the Central New York Regional Clean Energy Hub. We are comprised of actually 3 organizations through the Central New York Regional Clean Energy Hub. We are supported by NYSERDA to do this program. We are actually partnered with Agree to do a lot of the outreach and education, and with our energy advisors helping individuals. We're partnered with Greater Syracuse Works to work on the workforce development side. With New York's energy goals, we need to grow this workforce just as much as we need to do it to rebuild I-80, or redevelop and around I-81 when it comes down, and as well as Micron. So big challenges. As I mentioned, we are one of 12 regional clean energy hubs in New York State. So we have partners across the state that are also simultaneously developing their programs and outreach. And it's an excellent opportunity for us to learn across the state what works, what's more challenging, and have a cohort of people doing all of this work together. Our region in particular is the 5 counties of Central New York: Cayuga, Cortland, Madison, Onondaga, and Oswego counties. And part of our mandate from NYSERDA is to really focus on the disadvantaged communities developed by the Climate Justice Working Group in our area. So those areas in blue. They include a lot of the city of Syracuse, also includes Oswego, Cortland, Canastota, Auburn, Jordan Elbridge, Port Byron area, as well as Fulton, and a number of other locations. And so a lot of our outreach is focused in those regions as we do our work. But we are meant to be a resource to all in the Central New York region as a legacy of our Heat Smart campaign and the Solarize campaign. So as people come to us, we are here to assist. The EnergySmart program is meant to be a community resource to help people navigate the changing energy system that we have happening around us in order to address climate change, navigating the options for improving the energy efficiency of their homes, electrifying everything, and also exploring how to get involved in the workforce of that clean energy economy. So as people are probably aware, we have some very strong climate goals in New York State, including an overall 85% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Along the way to that, we have, oops, what just happened here? Sorry. Don't you move my mouse, got it. We have a goal of a 185 trillion British thermal unit reduction in energy use in buildings as a 2025 goal. And so a lot of our work is meant to help with that. Buildings are 30% of our greenhouse gas emissions as a state. And so we are building on the prior Heat Smart campaign, the prior assistance with the Clean Energy Efficiency Program that was run by Cornell Cooperative Extension previously, and really trying to be a resource to the community. There is this pathway to efficient electrification, and we recognize that people are at various stages along this. One of the things we definitely learned with the Heat Smart program is that in order to get to heat pumps, we need to focus first on the energy efficiency with the insulation and air sealing. And sometimes we get stuck even getting to the insulation and air sealing because of issues in the homes already existing, such as moisture issues, old wiring. So the hubs are given this broad mandate to really try to braid resources together to help overcome some of those barriers that to get even people into the basic energy efficiency side of things. This means that instead of just tracking a couple of programs, we are tracking multiple funding sources and really trying to find solutions for people. It's a challenge, but it's also really, it's a good one, and it's an important one to get people into the programs and supported in their improvements to their homes and buildings. And of course, further down the line, looking at solar and electrification, we're talking to people about community solar, on-site solar when it's appropriate, and helping people wherever they're at in this pathway. The overall objectives of the Regional Clean Energy Hub is to increase awareness of and access to clean energy solutions and opportunities, to increase public participation in energy planning and program coordination activities, to increase the uptake of clean energy projects with support for accessing wraparound services and resources, like I mentioned, things to help them address some of those challenges that that prevent them from even doing installation work. Increase partnerships and diversity of contractors that result in scalable activities and projects. Advance local capacity to engage with community members about clean energy policy, technologies, and opportunities, and support career pathways, particularly for individuals currently residing in those disadvantaged community areas and for priority populations. Ooh. Sorry. Try to keep going to move my mouse and it scrolls on me. Okay, so some of our activities. In the past year, we've been doing a lot of foundational program development, getting ourselves evolved from one person on the EnergySmart, doing HeatSmart CNY, which was me when I was previously at Agree, to a staff of 9 of us doing this work. We have been continuing our program referrals and application assistance to Clean Heat, to Empower, to Comfort Home, basically doing outreach and awareness, presentations, tabling. Energy education will be coming soon. We're going to be getting workshop kits to be doing basic energy literacy in the communities around us. We are doing workforce and small business development work. Very much focused on building networks for equitable engagement and capacity building in our region for understanding our energy system and their opportunities. We are deeply involved in building partnerships at the moment, and I hope to work with everyone in this chat, in this presentation, to do more of that, because while we are meant to be a hub of information, I see that as signposts often, more than us being the experts. There's a lot of expertise that is in our community, and a lot of that is in this presentation today, in this group of people here at Greening USA. And to change everything is going to take everyone. So we look forward to building more and more partnerships and referral processes. And then throughout this coming year, we're going to be focusing more on building more specific community campaigns and local project support programs. And we'll be looking for community input and what those look like. Some of our first year achievements, as I mentioned, we've basically evolved into EnergySmart CNY from HeatSmart CNY, and our prior successes. Patricia, I think you are not muted. Can you? Okay, you have now. Thank you. We're building on, helping close to 300 homes with HeatSmart CNY, and about the same for Solarize previously. That partnership with Agree has been really helpful over the past, gosh, it's probably been since the beginning of Solarize 7 years, I think. And so this is really the most recent evolution. And adding in Greater Syracuse Works is a real delight. To date in our program, we've had over 571 leads into our program. We've made 429 referrals. And because of the breadth of referrals that we're doing right now, we don't have quite the same level of tracking anymore for the successes, but we know of at least 12 known installs. So that's a benefit, and we will be developing more of how we track our successes in the future. a big part of our work in the past year has been, developing a massive database of additional funding sources, including USDA rural development funds, information for the Inflation Reduction Act, local housing organizations, really trying to catalog what's available in our community. And of course, all of those programs change all the time, which has become a fun challenge. Building partnerships, we've been focusing on supporting Pulaski in a local clean heating and cooling communities campaign, Pulaski in the town of Richland, through the Clean Energy Communities program. We've done outreach at 115 community events, ranging from tabling to presentations to some of our energy advisors just being on the street in, along with Syracuse City School District events, talking to people, getting the word out. And we've had 2 clean energy careers already. Going forward, continued assistance to renters, homeowners, building owners. I'm really pleased to announce that both on our workforce development and in our energy advisors team, we now have 2 people fluent in Spanish to assist with reaching that community. We are doing workforce development projects, including career fairs, and we're doing a Clean Energy Career Exploration Day event with SUNY Morrisville in April. We have some big projects that NYSERDA has asked us to do. One of them is a regional assessment and barriers analysis, and I will talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Our deadline for submitting our draft to NYSERDA is May 31st, and we are very much taking in community input at the moment. So there's a survey that's going to be launching next week, and we've been doing stakeholder meetings in the region, trying to get out through all 5 of our counties to gain input on the barriers and opportunities to helping our communities in this clean energy transition. As mentioned before, we'll be doing energy literacy workshops, probably starting in the autumn. We have outreach and equitable engagement plan that we're going to be working over the summer, developing our strategy for those energy literacy workshops, as well as our other outreach. Developing more of our community campaigns, including the opportunities to do another round of RFPs with local installers to really select more installer partners. We still have a number of partnerships left over from our HeatSmart program, as well as bringing in some of the contractors that worked closely with the SEEP program previously, to help people navigate the many contractors that are available through on NYSERDA's website that often aren't quite in our area. So we help people find the installers that actually do serve our local populations. We do continued outreach and education and greater partnership development and increasing our web-based resources for people to self-serve with. Right now, our EnergySmart CNY page goes to just a landing page on a GREES site, but we are redeveloping the HeatSmart CNY page, which still exists, and we are still doing intake from. So if people do find us as HeatSmart CNY, we do support, have them connect with installers still. And we are basically in the process of taking that HeatSmart website and building as an even better resource for EnergySmart CNY. Here's just an idea of our upcoming events for the next 2 weeks, or 2 months rather. A couple of the key ones, we have some stakeholder meetings in Auburn, in Syracuse, and we'll be doing that Clean Energy Careers Exploration Day in SUNY Morrisville. We are in the process of developing additional stakeholder meetings in Madison County and Cortland County and Cayuga County. We'll be tabling in a number of events. One of the things you'll note here is there's an event tonight in partnership with Agree at the Syracuse Community Connections building. Some may know the Southwest Community Center at South Ave from 5 to 6 p.m. It's an energy affordability and healthy homes roundtable with Senator May and Sturpey, and it'll be a good conversation. Our energy advisors will be there and ready to assist people as well. Some of the programs or resources that we're referring people to include the Empower Plus program, which is designed for low to moderate income households for energy efficiency work. Comfort Home, which is for people of all income levels. We refer to the Weatherization Assistance Program. We're helping people connect with the federal tax credits for energy efficiency home performance. Of course, New York Clean Heat which is the rebates through the utilities. And as of March 1st, for people who have boiler systems, there's now support for air-to-water heat pumps available through that program. So that's a little bit of news. We're also referring people to Home Headquarters' new Resilient Retrofits program, which, among other flood adaptation and prevention projects, allows for funding for cold climate air source heat pumps as it elevates the heating systems out of people's basements. There's also some neat resources available online now. NYSERDA has launched this New York Marketplace for anybody to go to if they're looking to buy various appliances. It helps people navigate the energy efficiency of the appliances that they're looking at. The website's right there. And of course, there's National Grid's Marketplace also for LED lighting, smart home things. So that's some of the programs and resources we refer to. As I mentioned, we've got a list of 75 that we sort of help people navigate what might be relevant for their situation. People have heard a lot about the Inflation Reduction Act, and I wanted to just give a really brief overview of some of the things that are currently happening and some of the things that you're maybe going, where's this at? The tax credits are available. They are available for the 2022 tax year. So as you're filing your taxes, please pay attention to those if you've made energy efficiency improvements. There is significant tax credits for commercial geothermal, including there's also a increased depreciation schedule for geothermal for commercial buildings. So I'm happy to talk to people more about that if you know of projects, large scale projects that are looking to build with clean energy. There's the Direct Pay for Nonprofits and Governments program that allows them to make use of the tax credits. Still under development because it basically has been delegated to the states to develop the rollout. Is the rebate programs for low to moderate income households and the federal home efficiency rebates. The federal home electrification and appliance rebates for low to moderate income households, and they're defining moderate income as 150% of area median income and less. So that's a big benefit. It's serving a gap that we have noticed where a lot of the programs in New York State ended at 80% of area median income. The 80% of area median income and lower is going to be implemented through Empower Plus. 80 to 150% we believe is going to be implemented through Comfort Home. That is still being designed by NYSERDA, and they're still in conversation with the Department of Energy right now. We expect to see the Empower Plus implementation rolled out later this spring. We expect the moderate income work to happen, or programs become more available later this year. Also available is the Renew America's Nonprofits. We are really pleased to have worked with Sustainable Westchester on their application to the Department of Energy for Renew America's Nonprofits program. They're one of 9 entities in the country that got funding, and so they're serving all of New York State, and we're helping aggregate projects into their application process. If you have a nonprofit owned building in one of the Justice 40 census tracts in New York and want to improve the energy efficiency of that building, please reach out to me. And actually, more importantly, please fill out the interest form from Sustainable Westchester if you want to take a moment to grab that link with a QR code that has their sign-up form to get all the updates for their program. They'll be assembling the final application for their 32 projects to the Department of Energy in June. So this is the time to get connected with them. And we're doing this regional assessment and barriers analysis. I'm realizing I am quickly running out of time, taking up other people's time. So I'm going to just note that this is a process. We're doing a lot of both data collection and analysis, but one of the key things we need is feedback from stakeholders. I'm going to share these questions with Greening USA and ask them to send them out on their listserv, and we very much appreciate any feedback that the experts in this room can give us to the barriers and opportunities that you see if you know of other wraparound services and resources that our hub should be connecting with, helping us identify the community assets and key stakeholders. We've done a lot of this work already, but it's always good to pick everyone's brains. And in our stakeholder meetings that we're doing, here's some of the key questions. I might drop these in the chat, and if you wouldn't, oops. We'd appreciate people's feedback if you want to do a chat waterfall coming back to us, but I also don't want to take up Avni and various times. So why don't we leave this for the end? And if we get through our presentations and have a little bit of time, maybe we come back to these questions and get people's input. Okay. Next stops, we're going to be putting out a survey. Please share it. If you're interested in volunteering with us, we had a really great steering committee with EnergySmart CNY. We have a different steering committee model with EnergySmart CNY and are looking for organizational partnerships for that, but we are looking to build up a volunteer base again because we are beginning to get more tabling requests than we can handle sometimes and need to build up some more volunteers to help spread the word. And of course, if you would like to explore your own options, please contact our energy advisors. You can sign up on that QR code there with our mailing list also, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and please share the content that we're putting out because our goal is to educate our community. And there's just some of our contacts for going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lindsay. Let's a lot of ground there, but let's turn it over to Barry and hear what he's got to say.
Thanks. And Scott, you're controlling my slides. Okay.
Yep, I'm bringing them up right now.
Thank you so much. Hey, welcome everybody, and thanks to Greening USA for allowing me a few minutes of your time to give this update. I also want to acknowledge my two good friends, Tammy and Emma from the Center of Excellence, where we're located. And of course, Chris Carrick, who is a longtime board member of our coalition. So thanks to all of you. I'm here today to talk to you about what's been going on with our Clean Cities Coalition. Sometimes I believe we are a very well-kept secret, but we have been around here in various forms since 1992. Our coalition actually started in 1995, so we are in our 29th year. Clean Cities program is in its 32nd year, and we are one of multiple coalitions. So there are 6 of us in New York State. There's 75 of us in total. And in the last month, the Department of Energy, as it likes to do once in a while, has rebranded us. So we, rather than being known as Clean Cities that you see there in the upper right-hand corner, moving forward, we are Clean Cities and Communities. I don't believe we're going to change our name because we have always been Clean Communities. Our goal is to educate people, obtain funding for projects, but our focus remains the same. It is completely on clean transportation. We are skilled and educated on the use of alternative fuels. On this slide, you see what the federal government authorized alternative fuels are. Biodiesel, which is a direct diesel substitute that is plant-based, primarily made from soybeans, which we grow a lot of them here in Central New York. Electricity, electricity is the big one right now. Ethanol was a huge focus 20 years ago with farmers in Iowa. Ethanol is mixed as with our gasoline to both reduce emissions and extend the amount of gasoline available. Hydrogen is also kind of a buzz fuel right now. The state and the federal government are setting up hydrogen hubs. Hydrogen will probably be the way that Class 8 large heavy trucks traverse the country in the next few years. Natural gas, which has been used as a diesel or gasoline substitute for the last 30 years. Our transit agency, Centro, runs on natural gas, which, while still a fossil fuel, is a much cleaner substitute for diesel. What's not shown here is there is renewable natural gas. I know that Centro is exploring this opportunity right now. Natural gas can be recovered as renewable through food waste, animal waste, plant waste. Right now, our local landfill out in Seneca Falls, they capture methane or renewable natural gas, and it is combusted in generators to make electricity to go on the grid. Propane is another alternative fuel. Propane is a fossil fuel that comes out of the ground, typically as part of the natural gas or oil drilling process. Propane is about 25 to 30% cleaner than gasoline and about 60% cleaner than diesel when used as a motor fuel. What's new, and again, not on this chart, is renewable propane. So the same process that can make renewable diesel, which is a waste product produced direct drop-in for diesel fuel. A side benefit of that is you can also make renewable propane with it. So next slide, please, Scott. Thank you, sir. I'm going to run through projects that we are currently working on here in 2024, and then I'm going to come back and focus on the two projects that I've highlighted in orange there. We are the local arm of NYSERDA's truck voucher incentive program. What that is a pot of money that's being administered by NYSERDA to provide the incremental cost to alternative fueled medium and heavy duty vehicles. So this money is available for class 4 through 8 vehicles. If you're not familiar with that, it's okay. The vehicles are put down by weight classification. So class 4 vehicle, think of an E450, like a Ford E450 or F450. These are vehicles that are quite often made into shuttle buses. Class 5 and 6 vehicles are typically box trucks, like delivery trucks you'd see out on the road. And class 7 and 8 vehicle are school buses, over-the-road heavy-duty buses, transit buses, and class 8 vehicles are over-the-road trucks. So 18-wheelers are typically class 8 vehicles. There is money through NYSERDA to replace a diesel or gasoline-powered vehicle with an electric or propane or natural gas or hydrogen vehicle. So if you're looking for information on that, reach out to me and I can direct you to it. Part of the truck voucher program is also scrappage. So these incentive programs require scrappage. The reason they require that is that much of the money came from the Volkswagen settlement, and what the federal government and the operator manager of the settlement funds wants to make certain of is that let's take it with a small trucking company that wants to replace a class 5 diesel powered box truck with an all electric box truck. They don't want that diesel powered truck to just go to another part of the country or another part of the world where it is still emitting particulate matter. It's really not a good way to do it. So we witness the scrappage and recycling of those vehicles. Next thing is relatively new. NYSERDA has broken out school buses to a specific bus voucher incentive program. It has an acronym like everything else in this business called BIP. We're the local outreach arm in upstate New York for NYSERDA's BIP program. This is available to school districts and other bus operators It will pay the incremental cost. So that's the difference between the cost of a diesel or gasoline bus and the cost of an electric bus. It will also help pay for the necessary charging infrastructure for an electric school bus. We also provide the outreach and advice on what is called the New York State Clean Transportation Program. Clean Communities of Central New York, our coalition, is an advisor to 3 different companies on this multi-year project. The 3 companies are Dollar Ride, which provides low-income electric shuttle service in Brooklyn and Queens. Kruger, which is a demonstration project for hydrogen fuel cell powered New York MTA transit buses in the Bronx. And TCAT, which is the Tompkins and Cortland County Transit Authority. They are adding a number of electric shuttle buses that will go out and be an on-demand shuttle service in the rural areas outside of Ithaca and Cortland. It will pick you up, bring you either to an existing bus depot to take the bus or an existing car share spot. Ithaca has an active car share program that utilizes electric vehicles. And finally, on this same program, you can also be brought to an electric bike depot. They are adding about 300 electric bikes to their bike share program in Ithaca. Next thing I want to talk about in a little more in-depth is the Northeast Electric Highways Project. Clean Communities of Central New York is the lead in outreach on this federally funded project. The owner of the project is National Grid. The subcontractors include 11 other investor-owned electric utilities and Clean Communities of Central New York, who are going to be doing the outreach in 9 states to community groups. What this is all about, and I'm actually giving a presentation on this with some Syracuse University people Monday, is the utilities have designated 130 potential locations for electric charging hubs that are going to be necessary as commercial fleets. So think of UPS, Amazon, FedEx, people like local food delivery companies, grocery stores, mattress and furniture delivery companies. As their vehicles get converted to electric, they're going to need regional and then national charging hubs. So Clean Communities is looking at these 130 sites. Those sites are then going to be picked and whittled down to 30 to 40 sites. At those 30 to 40 sites over a 9-state area, we're going to be doing community outreach to let local residents, to make local residents aware of what's going on and what the environmental benefits are, as well as the economic benefits. So in a lot of these places, these charging hubs are going to be going at new truck stops or new rest areas that will have jobs available for people, whether they're working at the truck stop, whether they become an electrician, whether they become a charging station or an electric vehicle provider. So it's a pretty neat project. It's going on over the next 2 years. And we have subcontracted some of it out to 4 different DOE Clean Cities and Communities coalitions. Next thing I'll touch on is the Drive Electric USA 2 project, of which I have a 1 o'clock call, but hopefully our program manager will take it. This is a multi-year effort to promote electric vehicle ride-in drives and vehicle consumer vehicle dealers to let people know what electric vehicles are available. Unlike many of our other projects, which are focused on fleets, Drive Electric USA is a complete consumer project. I know Lindsay, you talked about a couple of upcoming events, the Casanova Earth Day and the Manlius Earth Day events. Those will be Drive Electric USA events as well. So you'll see me there. We are undergoing with the other 5 New York State Clean Cities and Communities Coalitions, a 18-month alliance project. So what we're doing is creating a single entity that will have 6 regional clean cities offices that will allow us to expand our coverage to the entire state. Right now, although we have 6 clean cities coalitions in Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, New York City, and Long Island, there are still 17 counties in New York State that do not have any coverage. The Alliance funding will allow us to expand into that. We are working on a project that Howie, I actually saw you at last night when Hubert Brewer was giving a presentation at TACNY. We're working on a project with Hubert Brewer that will expand home charging for multi-unit dwellings. So those of us who own electric vehicles, if we own a home, typically we can plug our car in at home. But if we live in an apartment or a condo, quite often there's no access to charging there. So on new condo and apartment developments, there's going to be power run to each parking spot. So people will have the choice to electrify them. The NECEC, the Northeast Clean Energy Council, that's a project I'm working on with 3 Syracuse University engineering students as part of their capstone independent study project. That is a fleet electrification study for the Syracuse DPW. We are working on a project for NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab. That is a clean communities cohort program with the city of Ithaca to create and expand their clean transportation plan. And then finally, we're working with a group of about 60 clean cities coalitions called the Transportation Energy Partners. We just came back from our annual meeting in Washington, where we made hill visits to tell our leaders that we continue to need help in funding for clean transportation projects. Last slide, Scott. We're rebranding. I mentioned this a little earlier. That's the new logo down there in the lower left-hand corner. In the upper left-hand corner is where we are located. By all means, reach out to me and come visit. In the upper right-hand corner are the locations and the logos of the 6 Clean Cities coalitions that we're fortunate to have here in New York State. And finally, in the lower right-hand corner, we all get together twice a year. So that's all 75 Clean Cities coalition directors nationwide with lots of DOE people. So thank you again for your time, and I look forward to questions later on.
Thanks, Barry. And now we'll
You're welcome.
hear from Avni.
All right. Thanks, John. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Get us started. Oh, I would like my notes though. Alrighty. Great. So yeah, I'm Avni Praveen. I'm Agree's Alliance for a Green Economy's Deputy Director, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the legislative and regulatory landscape right now. We are immersed in budget season at the legislature. There's set to be a state budget by hopefully April 1st. So we're really doing a lot of round the clock, all hands on deck work on some exciting legislative stuff that has a really pretty big impact on the regulatory space. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those interactions. So at Alliance for a Green Economy, we like to say that we are stopping the bad while building the good. Obviously, we're trying to get fossil fuels out of New York, but we also have to provide a vision for some of our regulators and the legislators. Many times we're facing either a lack of experience from legislators with energy issues, or we're experiencing that bureaucratic inertia from our regulators. And so providing that vision of what we need and the solutions that we have in our toolkit is something that we find is often very educational for our decision makers and our policymakers. So in the stopping the bad category, which I'm going to start with so we can end on an uplifting note with building the good, we have the New York Home Energy Affordable Transition Act. I'll talk a tiny bit about rate cases. Honestly, we could do a whole 2 hours on rate cases. So we're really just skimming surface level what a rate case is and why New York heat has such an impact on those rate cases. And then another pretty important policy proceeding called the long-term gas planning proceeding. And then I'll get into building the good, which includes thermal energy networks. And I'll talk a little bit about what AGREE is doing there. Talk about the GAP Fund bill, the Green Affordable Pre-Electrification Fund bill, and then New Efficiency New York, which is a policy proceeding at the state level that we're involved in and trying to build some momentum in with other advocates. So New York heat, if y'all haven't seen this floating around, it's been getting a lot of media attention recently. This is the 3rd year of us trying to pass this bill. It's very ambitious, which is why it's been hard to pass. It's very, very wonky. And so there's been a lot of effort to educate legislators on what New York heat is. But, you know, we're really optimistic this year. We think we're in a really good place after having done a lot of this legislator education and intentional grassroots momentum building on this bill. So essentially what it does is it recognizes that the public service law we have right now actually prevents us from transitioning off of fossil fuels in buildings to more efficient clean heating technologies. And that's just because public service law has not been updated in a really long time. And we have new technologies now that our utilities could be building instead of climate destroying gas pipelines. So a couple of the things that it does, it lowers utility bills by capping utility bills to 6% of income. There are thousands of New Yorkers in thousands of dollars of debt to their energy utilities. And so we have to recognize that energy is not affordable for so many households in New York. And this bill seeks to correct that by placing a cap on how much households can actually be charged for energy. And what that does is also forces utilities to think about energy affordability in ways that they may not have, especially when they're still reliant on building fossil fuel infrastructure in order to make a profit. This bill will force them to consider new ways of serving energy to their customers without building these gas pipelines that are just going to be stranded assets in 20 to 30 years when we have to meet the mandates of our climate law and get off of fracked gas. This bill would also support green jobs and healthy homes. Thermal energy networks are a great off-ramp for gas utility workers who are already experts in laying pipe, fitting pipes, and that's a hugely helpful skill in building thermal energy networks. And so we're excited to say that our Upgrade New York collaboration that I'll be talking about a little bit later is actually a collaboration with some labor advocates who are excited to see more thermal energy networks and more jobs for unionized labor. And finally, this bill also would eliminate sources of pollution that disproportionately hurt both low-income New Yorkers and communities of color. We know that communities of color have higher rates of respiratory conditions due to poor indoor air quality from combusting gas inside the home. And so we're excited that this bill would enable more renewable, clean heating technologies instead of continuing to poison people inside of their homes. Some of the challenges here have been that, of course, the fossil fuel industry is fighting back with misinformation and fear mongering. We're seeing in Western New York, for example, people are getting robocalls from National Fuel telling them that we're going to come take their gas stoves and that hey, remember that blizzard, that really bad blizzard last winter? Well, that's going to happen again because this is what climate advocates want, and we're just trying to keep you safe. And so really just relying on keeping people afraid of a newer, modern, more efficient electric grid. And so we're pushing back with people power. This is a photo from a rally we held in January. We had lots of legislators speaking out on the issue, lots of youth climate activists speaking out on the issue, and we generated a lot of momentum, and we're continuing to do that. And if you want to come to our next one, well, I'll tell you all about that at the end of my presentation. There's definitely some opportunities to take action for New York heat if you would like. So why do we need New York heat? Well, as advocates in this space, as advocates for better, cleaner heating technologies and lower bills, what we're seeing in proceedings across the state is that it's really hard to get the gas utilities to want to do something other than what's worked for them for decades. And so we're seeing that our legislators, our public service commissioners, the state agency that regulates some of these policy proceedings, they're really deferential to the utilities, and they don't necessarily want to tell them to do something that's pretty new for them. And so what that does to advocates like us is it fractures our capacity, because now all of a sudden, instead of having this one law that we're implementing, we have all of these different rate cases across the state that we have to fight in to ensure that new gas infrastructure that's just going to become a stranded asset that's costing us millions of dollars, billions of dollars each year, to ensure that that is not placed on ratepayers, on the customers of gas utilities, all of us. If you pay a gas bill, you're actually paying subsidies towards gas infrastructure. And what happens in a rate case, it's all about the money. A rate case is all about utilities asking permission from our state regulators, the Public Service Commission, asking for permission for more customer money to build gas infrastructure. And so, for example, the National Grid downstate rate case, which is ongoing right now, they're asking for $30 a month additional rate hike from customers to build new gas infrastructure. National Fuel, another example, is asking for $11.31 a month rate hike for new gas pipe. And they're planning to spend, their capital budgets show they're planning to spend something like $100 million a year on replacing older leak-prone pipe. That's just going to become a stranded asset. So we're really concerned about the wasting of customer money on infrastructure that is not good for our climate, not good for our wallets, not good for our health. Another space that we're fighting in to stop the build out of these irresponsible investments is in the long-term gas planning proceeding. So this is a new proceeding. It's just getting started, but it basically requires that each utility has to come up with a plan for how they're going to comply with the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. That is our 2019 climate law. And unfortunately, what we're seeing in these planning proceedings is utilities like NFG, which are all gas service, are still trying to circumvent the climate law. And they're actually proposing to build more fracked gas infrastructure instead of less. And so we are involved in some of these long-term gas planning proceedings, but as I mentioned, being involved in almost every major rate case, utility rate case across the state, and every major long-term gas planning proceeding across the state is a lot for a small nonprofit like us without a single attorney on staff. So we're excited that New York Heat will actually require these utilities to follow a managed transition plan off of fossil fuels. All right, so now that I was just all doom and gloom for a little bit, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing to build the good. So I'm going to move right into the Green Affordable Pre-Electrification Fund. So this is a bill that we are trying to get passed in this year's budget. So that, like I mentioned, is hopefully coming out April 1st, which means we are all systems go on this right now. We're talking to legislators about it. We're trying to get support from other advocates and other organizations, especially housing, tenant rights, and health advocates, because the Green Affordable Pre-Electrification Fund will have a lot of benefits beyond just energy efficiency and electrification. We're seeing a lot of barriers to, in particular, low to moderate income homes, to energy efficiency and electrification, because sometimes there are deferred maintenance issues. There's toxic hazards in the homes. There's electrical panel upgrades that need to happen before they can get a heat pump, before they can get insulation, or really get proper building envelope improvements. And currently our state doesn't fund some of that. And so it's a massive barrier. We see that low to moderate income households with these problems almost can never fully electrify because of these issues. And our state has a goal of 800,000 electrification ready low to moderate income homes by 2030. So if we're going to meet that goal, if we're going to meet our climate law equitably, and make sure that low income households are not left on the gas system, which is only going to get more and more expensive as people leave the gas system to electrify their homes, which we're seeing happen. We're seeing the sale of heat pumps overtake the sale of gas furnaces. So we know that this is going to happen, and we know that we have to be ready and manage this transition for low-income households so that they're not stuck footing the bill for these gas investments. So the Green Affordable Pre-Electrification Fund will help people get access to these improvements. We'll also do a couple other things. We're trying to make sure that these programs are easy to apply for. I'm sure Lindsay here knows all about this. And, when we get into the Q&A, Lindsay, if you have anything to add to this, we definitely welcome this, because Lindsay is such an expert on getting access for people to these programs. But what many of us have seen is that these programs are really difficult to apply for. And often if you're trying to apply for the programs and get access to energy efficiency dollars, the heat pump rebates and incentives, you're often sent to like 3 different places, sometimes more, to try and apply. It takes a long time. It's really tedious. There's a lot of eligibility criteria that is often hard for low to moderate income households to meet. So we're really seeking to make that application easier for people and make it so that it's very easy to apply and very easy to access that money. And like I said, we're trying to ensure that homes are healthier. So mold, lead, asbestos, pest infestations, and other toxic conditions that are usually too expensive to remediate are removed. All right, I'm going to move us along to the next efficiency aspect of our work. We're involved in New Efficiency New York. That's a proceeding at the Public Service Commission. And what's going on right now is this efficiency program is undergoing an interim review. And the Public Service Commission is currently deciding how best to spend the next $2 billion of funding for efficiency initiatives. So it's a huge pot of money. And we know that energy efficiency is the #1 tool in our toolbox for A, helping people save money, and B, reaching our climate goals, and also building that renewable, reliable, flexible, modern grid of the future. But some of the issues with the efficiency programs around the state is that they don't fund those pre-electrification issues, like I mentioned earlier. So we are building the momentum and power to intervene and ensure that there's better access to these programs, like I said, an easier application process, that one-stop shop approach where people can come to one person, one entity, and get help. We want more funding for the right stuff, so funding those pre-electrification barriers. And then we also want to see that non-energy benefits like health and affordability are really valued because it's such a huge social cost that is not currently recognized. And we're seeing that bureaucratic inertia is stopping us from really reframing what a clean, comfortable, healthy, efficient home looks like. All right, so I'm going to breeze through this because I know I'm a minute over time, but I just want to talk a little bit about the Upgrade New York collaboration. We helped pass the Utility Thermal Energy Networks and Jobs Act last year, which basically says that the state needs to develop plans to decarbonize 15 of their highest emitting facilities through construction of thermal energy networks. And I'm going to skip ahead to talking a little bit about what a thermal energy network is for folks that may not have heard of this before. But basically, it is a highly efficient way of heating and cooling, critically and cooling buildings, because it's not combusting anything to create heat, but rather is moving heat around from building to building. So you'll have sources of heat all year round, like wastewater treatment plants, like sewage facilities. And then you also have sinks or places that need heat all year round. Even in the summer, if you think about it, people are taking warm showers, so you still need heat to heat water for showers, cooking, that sort of thing. And so thermal energy networks are a way to move heat around from building to building, even within a building, from place to place, and highly efficiently heat spaces and water and reduce peak electricity demand. So we're really hoping to see an explosion of those pilot projects throughout New York. And we're achieving some of that work with the Upgrade New York collaboration. We have a couple actions that we're promoting. I'll drop these in the chat. But we are really looking to have as many people join us in Albany on March 13th at 11 a.m. to rally for New York heat. If you can't make it, no worries. You can always take 2 minutes to call your legislators. And all of that you can do at the link that I'll drop in the chat. And then also, if your organization would like to write a memo of support for the GAP fund bill, it takes 15 minutes. We have a super easy template that you can just fill out. We're trying to show legislators that there's a lot of support for this fund. You can also get involved in the New Efficiency New York effort and help us win better and more effective efficiency programs. So give me just a second. I'll drop these links in the chat and I'll pass it back to John.
Wow, thank you, Avni. Amazing presentation from all of you. So much is going on to grow this green energy landscape that we could have devoted separate programs to each of you. And so what this tells me is that we need to have you back at some point in the future and to spend more time so people can really get into your programs. But so much is going on. Some questions from the audience, if you have them, either raise your hand. I think I can see everybody in the Zoom now. So if you use your reaction button to raise your hand or put a note in the chat that you have a question or what your question is. I did see a comment on a question from Melanie early on, and it was kind of along the same lines I was having with the complexity of everything that's out there that really everybody talked about here on the panel is how does somebody start? It seems like we need like an algorithm or something that you can put in a couple things and it'll tell you where to go or what you're eligible for or whatever. And I'm glad that we have this hub. A related question to that would be for Lindsay is how much what kind of staff do you have to do the work that you're doing there? Do you want
It's more than we had, but still not enough is the short version. I would definitely say if there's anyone out there with really good programming skills that would like to help us build something more of an algorithm, that's definitely one of the things that we have an Airtable-based database that we try to keep everything listed in as much as possible, but trying to develop a way that's more public facing for that to help people search for opportunities is it's on my wish list, but I would love to have our people are more focused on outreach experience and helping people navigate programs, working with the public, and I need some more programmers because that's how we reach scale. So we have 9 staff as part of the EnergySmart program. We have 3 doing workforce development at Greater Syracuse Works. Really, it's 1.5. One person full-time, we've got a part-time person, and then we've got some other executive directors time. We have 5 energy advisors. One's based here at the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board for some more technical projects, and 4 at Alliance for a Green Economy. And those energy advisors have a lot on their plate. They are both doing the intake for people and doing that one-on-one assistance, as well as planning our outreach events. So again, would love some more volunteers to help expand our capacity as much as possible. Yeah, no, the work is, there's a lot there for sure.
Dick had his hand up.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the gap funding and how critical it is. In the low income weatherization world funded by the Department of Energy, the DOE, the single greatest barrier to people in low income housing getting their houses fixed are what's called deferral. What Abney had on there was issues like windows, doors, etc. But it's really more than that. It's really issues that are structural, which is roofs and moisture and water penetration. These are significant repair projects. And so weatherization cannot work in a house where there is any kind of structural issue of any kind that is not directly related to energy efficiency work. So if there's electrical problems, I'm not sure if they can do anything with that, because their charge is really about doing the energy efficiency work only, and they can't fix houses. So that $200 million is unbelievably critical and way, way, way too little.
Yeah.
We're talking about if you assume that the average work that needs to be done on a house in a low income house can easily be $15,000 to $30,000 just to get it ready for the insulation and electrification work. You're only talking about 10,000 houses in the entire state getting fixed.
Yeah.
So I assume the $200 million was a compromise, because I was involved in earlier discussions with New York Renews about this, and they were talking in the $1 billion range initially. So it sounds like this is a political compromise to get the 200 million, but it really needs to be way more than that, because those are people who need the work the most in the state of New York, and they fall into a hole that can't be filled until those houses are fixed. So it's a really big problem. So I just want to point that out.
Yeah, we are staring at this every single day. You know, you can't put insulation in a wall if the wall doesn't exist there, if you're doing blown in dense packed cellulose. And yeah, moisture issues, foundation issues, all of this. I mean, Syracuse just did a great housing study, and I have to get the statistics down in my head better, but there is a significant number of houses in Syracuse where the cost of bringing them up to code, and that's largely from a visual inspection on the outside, not even looking at the structural issues sometimes, is more than the house is actually worth. So this dovetails directly with our affordable housing crisis that's happening. And yeah, I would say over the past 5 years of doing this work, I've gotten a pretty eye-opening look into the state of most people's houses in central New York, and people are living in extremely substandard conditions. So that is definitely the gap fund is would be very welcomed as an asset.
Yeah, and I can just speak to the $200 million. The reason that it's $200 million, Dick, you're absolutely correct that this is what the legislators who are sponsoring the bill, this is what they have told us they think is winnable. And so we're hoping that this first year that it gets funded, it's going to be smaller, but we're going to prove how successful this program is and demonstrate the great need throughout the year. And so hopefully get more funding from the state legislature next year. And that's also why we're dovetailing it with our new Efficiency New York advocacy in that proceeding, because if there's an opportunity to actually restructure the programs that are offered by NYSERDA and offered by the utilities, that even more funding will be available from that massive pot of money. I think it's around $2 billion. So our demand in that proceeding is that 50% of the budget be dedicated towards low to moderate income households and making those improvements to homes so that they can access the energy efficiency and electrification work that is such a benefit. So again, definitely an open call if anyone's interested in joining those advocacy efforts and trying to restructure those programs. We would love to have you.
Yeah, thank you. Chris Carrick raises the question about what incentives are available to kind of incentivize new construction that is being proposed to exceed energy efficiency codes right now to move us towards that net zero space a little bit. Avni, can you comment on that, or maybe Lindsay? Or
yeah, I'm happy to quickly respond with what I know. I know Rewiring America is doing an amazing job of watchdogging the Building Codes Council. There is an opportunity to implement the requirements from the All Electric Buildings Act that passed last year. And we are hoping that the Building Codes Council will include it in this turn of the cycle, because the next time that they actually update the codes is going to be in 3 years. And we know that, at a rate of whatever the rate of new buildings built each year, triple that. That's so many new buildings that won't be including new efficiency mandates. And so we're hoping to see the Building Codes Council adopt more efficient requirements. And then the other thing that I will say about making sure the incentives provided by local governments have those energy efficiency requirements. I think a lot of that is going to be fought out in the provision of the new IRA rebates that are coming down. And so currently municipalities are learning about how they can access those dollars and how to distribute those dollars. And I think if we want them to make sure that it has that caveat that if you're getting this money, you have to be building energy efficient buildings. I think we need to be clear that local municipalities are going to be responsible for making those requirements.
In case you didn't see it, Tammy posted a link to the Rewiring America calculator.
Where?
It's in the chat.
Oh, no. Okay.
Scroll up a little bit.
Rewiring America calculators is good. I appreciate that they are flagging the things that are not available yet. A lot of what comes up as the rebates in there are not currently on the street. So that's one of the points of confusion we've been seeing from a lot of people, is there's this big push to get the information out about the Inflation Reduction Act, which is great, because people should start thinking about, what's their pathway, what do they want to do? But the details of some of that funding are still there's what the federal government says, and then it's going to be what the states implement. And that's the challenge that we really see right now. Let me see if I can. NYSERDA is actually taking comments from people on their planned rollout. And let me just see if I can find that link real quick and drop it in the chat.
Right. Well, while Lindsay is doing that, I want to just get Barry in here for a second before I ask Peter King's question. Barry, is there funding available for a homeowner to get a charging station built at their home to do some electrical work to have an outlet out there or a real charging station at their home?
There's a couple different programs, and there's also a customized program, but there are programs through your utility, whether it's National Grid or Avangrid, which is the parent company of New York State Electric and Gas. There is a federal tax credit on the cost of the station. There is a state tax credit on the cost of the station. So look into all that stuff or reach out to me and I can kind of hold your hand through the process. But I will say where it's lacking is with municipal utilities. So here we have Solve Electric, right? They don't have access to a lot of these programs. So the municipal utilities, to me, there should be some sort of state or national fund where they can offer the same because they're missing out on a lot.
Barry, are there some handy design standards available somewhere for a homeowner to get and go over with their electrician to build this thing?
Yep. And I can send them out to the group. We have access to that stuff. Ultimately, what we would like to see on the EV infrastructure side is have all this built into the permitting process. So to pull a new building permit, you don't necessarily have to put a charger in, but the goal is to have the power run to the garage or somewhere outside the house. So the homeowner could make that choice when they go electric and not have to upgrade their power again or go back and retrofit to have the power in the proper place.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so Peter King had put a question in here about healthy homes programs are often locally organized, enable paying for building upgrades up front from the expected energy savings. Are there clear incentives and ways local agencies can tap funding for implementing local healthy homes? Anybody can take that if you have any. Dick has his hand up to try
so it along with the deferral problem, the issue about the non-energy benefits, specifically about healthy homes, is unbelievably critical, especially in the low-income population. So there was a massive study done in the Kansas City Children's Hospital where they looked at asthma. They looked at asthma patients who show up at the emergency room, mostly children. And it turned out that when those houses were quote unquote fixed, and the asthma triggers, which are mostly mold and dust, etc., when those houses were essentially fixed and then insulated, air sealed, and made healthy, that the visits to the hospital drastically decreased. And these are people who are on the low income spectrum where the cost of the hospital costs are costs that are passed on to all the ratepayers, all the public. So it turned out to be a huge, enormously significant societal savings on medical costs by fixing these houses. This has to happen everywhere. I was tempted because I know the study and I know the people who did this study, and I'm involved actually with BPI, who produced a Healthy Homes certificate and Healthy Homes credential about how we get the message to the medical establishment in Central New York in terms of fixing houses to prevent medical costs to the community. This is a really big issue, and it's mostly at the lower income spectrum.
There actually is some funding. There's a pilot study that's happening, I believe, with SUNY Upstate, where there are some direct referrals that are happening for people with asthma to home performance contractors. I know Halco is doing, and I'm not sure if it's the same problem. I've heard of a program from SUNY Upstate. I've heard Halco is taking referrals from medical institutions at this point.
Right.
All of this, like in terms of partnerships, that program's been really hard to even get any details on because of HIPAA laws. So it's one of those things that's very hard for us to have any connection with, unfortunately. But I do hear bits and pieces out there that some of this is happening. I wish we could have. I'm looking forward to trying to find more ways of getting those connections made so that in addition to those direct referrals to contractors, we can then also do more follow-up work, because I'm sure that that program only starts having the tip of the iceberg for a home also.
Thank you for that. We are out of time of our normal appointed time, but great conversation that needs to be continued. And we all have a lot of work to do on this vein. I'm hoping that we can have a program on housing at some point in the near future at one of our green bag lunch programs. So if you have suggestions for how to organize that or who should be speakers, your help is always needed and important to us. But thanks to our speakers today for coming out and sharing what they're doing with us. Very informative. And thanks to our audience for being here and asking great questions. So thanks again. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.